Hey everybody, today is February 4th of 2020. I'm doing a special update today because we have officially broken the number 20,000 for total confirmed cases. As of now, the numbers are 20,680 infected, 427 total deaths, 723 total recovered, and this information is coming from the Johns Hopkins dashboard. Now, it's a little encouraging because the number between deaths and recovered is increasing a little bit. You're getting a bigger gap there now, which is promising. However, it's a little too early to get excited because of the lag time associated with the virus and the reports and everything else, as well as the quality and accuracy of the information coming from China. So today I'm going to go through a couple of headlines. I'm going to touch on some that have some concerning information in them, and I'm going to blaze through the rest of them. So here we go. The first article is the Chinese doctor who tried to warn others about the coronavirus. This article talks about a man who is a 34-year-old ophthalmologist who was diagnosed with the coronavirus. He was put in ICU and on oxygen treatments shortly after he was infected. What happened was that on December 30th, he sent out a message to some fellow doctors in a chat group warning them to be careful and avoid, to try to avoid infection because his hospital was housing, I forget if it's 6 or 7 people that were in isolation because of it. So he warned them, and he told them to privately warn their families as well. And what happened was that one of the messages went out and no one had blurred out his name, and basically he knew he was going to get in trouble, and he did. But what's concerning here is not so much just that they arrested him for spreading rumors and stuff, even though it turned out to be true, but what's concerning is this. In his Weibo post, he describes how on January 10th he started coughing. The next day he had a fever, and 2 days later he was in the hospital. And then from there, he deteriorated quickly to the ICU and oxygen and everything. His parents also fell ill and were taken to the hospital. And it was 10 days later, on January 20th, that China declared the outbreak an emergency. Now, Dr. Li said he was tested several times for the coronavirus, but all tests came back negative. That is until January 30th, when he posted again, today's nucleic acid test came back with a positive result. The dust has settled. Finally diagnosed. Now the problem here is that is 20 days that he was sick before he got a positive result. He was coughing, had a fever, he was in the hospital, and still was testing negative up until 20 days later. Now the problem is we've been letting people come into our country still, and when we have these suspected cases that pop up in a state and they're looking at them and then they're taking the test, they're coming back and saying it's negative, it's not coronavirus. However, how do we know? Because now with this information, this is basically saying that it took 20 days before he got a positive result after he showed symptoms. So that's concerning to me. I haven't heard anyone else mention it or bring it up, but I find it to be very concerning. The next one is also concerning to me. Discoveries of coronavirus on doorknob of infected patient sparks transmission concerns. This article basically says that the China's Health Commission on Monday said that the coronavirus can survive for 5 days maximum on surfaces under suitable circumstances. 5 days is a long time for a virus to hang out on something, and this just reinforces why hand washing is so important. And in today's world, I see so many people that do not wash their hands that it's disgusting, and I will probably do a video about that at some point in time. But 5 days is what they're saying now. This article, poll. Most Americans say U.S. is doing enough to prevent coronavirus spread, which this article is BS. The study that they did, or the poll that they took, is complete crap, and I'll show you why. But first, let's look at what it says. 2/3 of Americans say novel coronavirus poses a real threat but has not been blown out of proportion. Majority of Americans are concerned about the potential spread, but 61% say that government officials are doing enough. Now, it sounds all fun and great and everything else, and we can look at the charts and the questions, and it seems like, legit. But at the end of the day, this poll is nothing more than a manipulative poll, and I'm going to tell you why. They use these for politics. They use them for hot button issues like abortion and gun rights and everything. You'll always see these articles about polls, and they mention numbers like most Americans, 2/3 of Americans, the majority of Americans. And my question is, what constitutes that? Because if you follow it down the line and you look for the fine print, source, NPR/PBS/NewsHour/Marist poll of 808 U.S. adults. And then it also says the margin of error for the overall sample is 4.9 percentage points. So 808 people constitute most Americans, 2/3 of Americans, and the majority of Americans. Just keep that in mind whenever you see these manipulative poll titles. 808 people is not a big enough sample to get a real feel for what most Americans think. Next article. Macao to close casinos for 2 weeks to fight coronavirus. This is a big deal because they're going to lose a lot of money closing for 2 weeks. This is closing 41 casinos that generate the bulk of government revenue via gaming taxes and are collectively the biggest employer. So that's a big deal to close that down, and they're saying they were justified doing it because they had at least one casino worker that tested positive for the virus. The next article is 4 locally transmitted cases among new coronavirus patients in Singapore, and this is 4 people who had no recent travel history to China, so this is just reconfirming, again, person-to-person transmission. Experts envision 2 scenarios if the coronavirus isn't contained. And the 2 scenarios are that it's just another coronavirus like SARS, where it pops up and then it disappears and it doesn't come back for a long time. Or it could turn into something like the seasonal flu, where it's going to come around every single year. The problem with that is that it's got a fatality rate around 2%. They're saying that's overestimated, but again, we can't trust the numbers because there's so much skewed information out there that it's just hard to get an actual estimate. So if we go with the 2, that's still less than SARS, which was 10. It's not even close to MERS, which was 37. But the seasonal flu kills fewer than 0.1%. So that's a big difference, 0.1% versus 2%. And even though the flu only kills 0.1%, that's still tens of thousands of deaths a year in just the United States. Globally, I think it's like 650,000 on an annual basis. But the Spanish flu killed only 2.5%, and that ended up killing 50 million people. And we didn't have mass transit and, like rapid transit like we do today. Now we can go from one point to another real quick. It wasn't as easy to travel. But we do have better medical care until it gets overrun. And back then they had less population density. Now we have more. It's very finicky and it could be really bad. But then again, it might not be. So let's just keep that in mind. Next article, first death in Hong Kong from coronavirus, and the health emergency center set up in Michigan for coronavirus education. So I will put the links to all these articles below in the description. I try to do this every day now because I take so much time searching for articles and everything else and reading them that I figured if I can put some of the most pertinent and important headlines together every morning for you guys in a quick 1 or 2 minute video with links to those things, you can decide which ones you're interested in reading and go click on them, and maybe it'll save you some time while you're getting ready for work or whatever, so you don't have to be hunting yourself. I hope you like the videos. Please like and subscribe. Also, if you have any information that you'd like to share with me, please feel free to leave it in a comment. Thanks for watching, and keep your heads on a swivel.